December 8th, your birthday. You wake up, check your phone, see the notifications. Happy birthday. Messages flood in. Your mom calls. Your friends text. Social media remembers because it always remembers. And you feel nothing special. Not sad. Not rebellious. Just completely, utterly neutral about the fact that you've completed another trip around the sun, you'll go to work, maybe grab your usual coffee, come home, sleep. The day passes like water through your fingers, unmarked and unremarkable. Meanwhile, your coworker took the entire week off for their birthday. Your friend posted 17 stories about their birthday month. Your sister planned her party 3 months in advance. But you didn't even mention it to anyone who didn't already know. Here's what most people don't understand about this. It's not about being humble. It's not about secretly hoping someone will throw you a surprise party. It's not even about disliking attention, though that might be part of it. The truth is far more complex, and it reveals something profound about how your mind processes significance, time, and self-worth. Stick with this because what comes next might explain why a date on a calendar has never felt like enough reason to celebrate. Let's start with what everyone else thinks when you casually mention you don't do birthdays. Oh, they're just being modest. No, modesty implies you secretly want recognition but won't ask for it. This is different. This is genuine indifference. They must have had bad birthdays as a kid. Sometimes true, often not. Plenty of people with wonderful childhood birthdays still grow up to ignore them completely. They're probably depressed. The easiest explanation, if someone doesn't celebrate their own existence, something must be wrong, right? Except you can be perfectly content with your life and still not care about your birthday. Here's a micro scene you might recognize. You're at lunch with friends. Someone asks about weekend plans. You mention you're free Saturday. Your friend checks their phone calendar and goes, "Wait, isn't Saturday your birthday?" You shrug. "Yeah, but it's just Saturday." The table goes quiet. Someone laughs nervously. "Just Saturday? Come on, we have to do something." And now you're in that uncomfortable space where your indifference feels like rejection to them. You're not rejecting them. You're just not attaching meaning to an arbitrary date. But they see it as you not valuing yourself. Or worse, not valuing their desire to celebrate you. Here's what they don't see. The complex psychology running beneath your calm surface. The reasons you've learned to separate your sense of worth from annual acknowledgement. The way your brain has reorganized what special actually means. For some people, treating birthdays like normal days isn't a preference. It's a defense mechanism built from repeated disappointment. Imagine this. You're 8 years old. You've been excited for weeks. You made invitations yourself, drew little balloons in crayon, handed them to 12 classmates. Your mom ordered a cake. You picked out decorations. The day arrives. 3 kids show up. Your mom smiles too brightly. Well, 3 is plenty for games. You nod, force enthusiasm, but inside something cracks. Not loudly, quietly, like ice developing a hairline fracture. Or maybe you're older. 15. You don't expect a party, but you mention to your friends it's your birthday. They say cool and keep talking about something else. Nobody suggests cake. Nobody suggests anything. The day ends and you realize they forgot. Not maliciously, they just forgot. Each small disappointment teaches your brain the same lesson. Expecting something on this day leads to pain. So you stop expecting, you stop mentioning, eventually you stop caring. Psychologists call this learned helplessness, but in this case it's more like learned detachment. Your brain adapted. It found a solution. Don't assign importance to the day, and it can't hurt you when the day disappoints. This type often carries a subtle sadness they don't acknowledge. Ask them directly, they'll say they're fine with it. They genuinely believe they are, and functionally they are. They've created a protective numbness around this specific date. But if you watch closely, on their birthday, there's sometimes a moment, usually late evening, where they check their phone one more time. Not hoping for messages, exactly, just checking, making sure the indifference is still working. Not everyone who skips birthdays comes from this place, but some do, and they've turned absence of expectation into a form of self-protection. Then there's a completely different group. These people examined the concept of birthdays and made a conscious choice to opt out. They're not wounded. They're philosophical. Think about it from their perspective. You didn't accomplish anything by being born. You didn't achieve surviving another year through any particular skill. Time passed. Your body aged. Cells divided. Congratulations. This type sees birthday celebrations as a form of participation in collective theater. Society decided this date matters, so everyone performs enthusiasm about it, but they're not interested in performing. This connects to what psychologists call authentic living. The idea that true well-being comes from aligning your actions with your actual values, not with social scripts. These people value genuine achievement, real milestones, finishing a difficult project, overcoming a fear, learning a new skill. Those feel worth celebrating. But rotating around the sun one more time? That's just physics. Here's what's interesting about this type. They're often the same people who deeply celebrate others. They'll remember your birthday, plan something thoughtful, show up with genuine warmth, because they value you, the person. They just don't believe the arbitrary date of your birth is what makes you valuable. When it's their own birthday, they might feel slight amusement at the cultural expectation, like watching everyone participate in a tradition they've seen through, not with superiority, more with detached clarity. They don't need a calendar to tell them when to feel good about themselves. They've internalized their worth. It exists independent of annual validation. This is the type that confuses people most because they seem so well-adjusted. No childhood trauma, no social anxiety, just a genuine, thought-through conclusion that birthdays are optional theater. But there's still more to this story. Not everyone fits these categories. Some people don't celebrate their birthday for a simpler reason. They've never needed external events to feel alive. This type has what researchers call intrinsic motivation patterns. They generate their own sense of occasion. Every day has potential to be special based on their internal state, not external markers. You know how some people wait all year for their birthday, their vacation, their anniversary, like they're collecting specific dates where joy is permitted. This type doesn't work that way. They might have an incredible Tuesday because they finished a book that changed their thinking. Thursday becomes memorable because they had a conversation that clarified something important. Saturday is wonderful because the light hit their coffee cup in a beautiful way. For them, making a big deal about one specific day feels limiting. Why compress all celebration into one 24-hour period? Why not distribute the appreciation across the whole year? Psychologically, this relates to something called temporal discounting. Most people assign greater value to specific moments in time. Birthday, wedding day, graduation. These become anchor points. But this type has flattened the curve. All days have relatively equal potential. When their birthday arrives, they might acknowledge it. Oh, right, another year. But it doesn't trigger any special emotional response. Not because they're numb, but because they haven't trained their brain to spike dopamine on schedule. This can look like depression to outsiders. Same behavior, different mechanism. A depressed person feels nothing because they're emotionally flattened. This type feels normal because they've normalized all days into potential, not just special ones. They're not waiting for life to happen on marked calendar dates. They're living it continuously. And then there's one more type that might surprise you. This group doesn't celebrate their birthday for the most practical reason of all. What exactly is there to celebrate? They're not being pessimistic, they're being honest. Look at their life. Same job they had last year. Same apartment. Same relationship status or lack thereof. Same problems, maybe a few new ones. Another year older, not particularly wiser. The honest realist sees birthdays as an annual audit. And when they run the numbers, growth feels questionable. Why throw a party for maintaining equilibrium? Why celebrate aging when you haven't necessarily evolved? This type often includes people in transition periods. Maybe they're stuck in a career that isn't fulfilling but pays the bills. Maybe they're single when they don't want to be. Maybe they're dealing with a health issue that makes aging feel more like loss than gain. For them, birthday enthusiasm feels performative, like they're supposed to pretend everything's great just because the Earth completed an orbit, but they can't muster the performance. Here's what's important to understand. This isn't necessarily depression, though it can be a marker. It's more like radical honesty. They've looked at their life and decided that celebration requires something worth celebrating. Survival doesn't count. I made it another year. Okay? And what changed? What improved? What was accomplished? When they skip their birthday, they're not being self-destructive. They're refusing to participate in hollow ritual. They'd rather wait until they actually have something to celebrate. A promotion, a creative project completed, a relationship milestone, something earned. The cultural pressure to celebrate your birthday regardless of circumstances feels to them like forced cheerfulness. Like everyone's supposed to ignore reality for 24 hours and pretend the passage of time is inherently positive. They're the ones who, if pushed to celebrate, might agree to dinner. But they won't post about it, won't make speeches. Will probably pay for everyone else because receiving attention for existing another year feels unearned. But regardless of which type you are, there's something all of these people share. Something society doesn't want to acknowledge. Here's what nobody tells you about treating your birthday like a normal day. It works perfectly until it doesn't. The protection becomes isolation. The independence becomes disconnection. The honesty becomes a wall. Because here's the thing about opting out of birthday celebrations. You're not just opting out of cake and candles. You're opting out of a social ritual that, for better or worse, is how people express care. When you say, "Don't worry about my birthday," what some people hear is, "Don't worry about me." When you downplay its significance, you accidentally communicate that you don't need connection, that you don't want to be seen. And maybe that's partially true. Maybe you genuinely don't want the performance of celebration. But humans are social creatures. We need moments where others acknowledge we exist. We need to feel seen, known, remembered. By eliminating birthdays, you've eliminated one of the few culturally acceptable opportunities for people to say, directly and without awkwardness, "I'm glad you're alive." You can call it performative. You can say it's arbitrary. You're not wrong, but you might be lonely. The wounded type risks calcifying their protection into permanent isolation. The authentic type risks becoming so self-sufficient, they forget interdependence is also valuable. The independent spirit risks losing track of communal joy. The honest realist risks using their birthday as an annual reminder of dissatisfaction rather than a potential reset point. And there's another risk. The people who love you start to feel rejected. Not because you don't celebrate yourself, but because you won't let them celebrate you. Your best friend wants to take you to dinner. Your partner wants to plan something special. Your mom wants to call. And when you minimize it all, treat it like an inconvenience, what they hear is, "Your love doesn't matter to me." That's not what you mean, but that can be what lands. So the very mechanism that protects you from disappointment or frees you from performance or maintains your authenticity or refuses hollow celebration, that same mechanism can slowly cut you off from the people who care. Not dramatically, not obviously, just a little more distance each year, until one birthday you realize nobody's asking anymore. They've learned. You don't want to celebrate. They'll respect that. And you might feel relief. Or you might feel something else. Something like the emptiness you were trying to avoid in the first place. It's your birthday. 6:47 p.m. You're standing in line at the grocery store. The fluorescent lights hum above you. Tinny pop music plays from ceiling speakers. You've got a basket with 3 items: pasta, sauce, cheese, dinner for one. Same as last Tuesday, same as next Friday, probably. Behind you, a mother and daughter are talking. The girl can't be more than 7, bouncing on her heels. "And I want the cake to be chocolate, but with vanilla frosting, and we can put sprinkles on it, and everyone can write their names, and we'll see," the mother says, smiling. "Your birthday's still 3 weeks away." "I know, but I want to make sure it's perfect." You shift your weight, look at your phone. 3 texts from your mom you haven't answered. 2 from friends suggesting plans. 1 from your sister with a gift card, and 7 emojis. The line isn't moving. Self-checkout is down. The cashier is training someone new. Every beep of the scanner feels amplified. The girl behind you is still talking about her birthday party. Guest list, games, whether they should have it at the park or in the backyard. You feel your jaw tighten slightly. Not anger, not really. Something more like awareness of the contrast, of the space between her excitement and your nothing. The cashier calls you forward. You place your 3 items on the belt. The trainee scans the pasta, struggles with the barcode on the sauce. The experienced cashier gently corrects her hand position. "There you go. Just angle it a little more." "Sorry," the trainee mumbles. "You're doing great," you say automatically. Because you are patient. You are understanding. You are fine with waiting. Behind you, the girl, "Can we do pizza too? Or is cake enough?" Your phone buzzes. Your mom again. "Honey, please let me at least take you to dinner. I don't care where, your choice." You type back quickly. "Really busy this week. Rain check?" Delete "this week." Change it to "tonight." Send. 3 dots appear. Then disappear. then appear again. Okay, sweetheart, but I'm sending you something anyway. You can't stop me, Fane. The cashier tells you the total. You tap your card. It declines. You tap again. It works the second time. Have a good evening, the trainee says, earnest and nervous. You too, you say. You walk out into the parking lot. The evening air is cool. Somewhere in the distance, you can hear laughter from the restaurant next door. Birthday song. Clapping. Someone celebrating. You put the grocery bag in your car. Sit in the driver's seat. Don't start the engine yet. Your phone is still in your hand. You could call your mom back. Could text your friends. Actually, dinner sounds good. Could post something, acknowledging the day. You sit there for longer than you mean to, watching the sky fade from blue to purple, listening to the distant celebration, and you realize something you've maybe known for a while, but haven't let yourself think clearly. This is easier than expecting, easier than coordinating, easier than being the center of attention and managing everyone's effort to make you feel special. But easier isn't the same as better. You start the car, drive home, make your pasta, eat it while scrolling your phone. 47 birthday messages across various platforms. You heart react to most of them, reply thank you with an exclamation point to a few. You don't feel sad, exactly. You don't feel much of anything, which might be precisely the problem. Maybe you've been telling yourself that not celebrating your birthday is a sign of maturity, of knowing yourself, of being above the need for external validation. And maybe that's partially true, but maybe it's also possible that somewhere along the way you confused not needing a party with not needing people, and you convinced yourself that indifference to this one day is a superpower when really it might be a symptom of something else entirely, not depression necessarily, but a kind of emotional efficiency that's gone too far, a pruning away of vulnerability until you're left with something that looks like strength but feels like distance. And the hard truth is that there's a difference between not needing birthday cake and not letting anyone close enough to know what actually matters to you. And you've gotten so good at being low maintenance, at not asking for anything, at treating every day like it's neutral and unremarkable, that you've forgotten how to let yourself be celebrated, how to receive love without immediately deflecting it or minimizing it or making it about the other person instead. And maybe that's the real issue here. Not that birthdays are meaningless, but that you've decided nothing is significant enough to mark, to pause for, to let penetrate your careful equilibrium, and perhaps the people who make a big deal about their birthdays aren't all narcissists or attention seekers. Perhaps some of them have simply learned something you haven't, that letting others celebrate you, even for an arbitrary reason, is an act of connection, of trust, of admitting that you exist in relationship to others, and that your presence in their lives is worth acknowledging, worth pausing for. Cake and candles and off-key singing and awkward speeches, because when you strip it all down, a birthday celebration isn't really about you patting yourself on the back for aging. It's about the people who love you having a culturally sanctioned excuse to say out loud, embarrassment, that they're glad you were born, that your existence has mattered to them, that the world is different because you're in it, and by refusing that, by treating it like nothing, you're not just protecting yourself from disappointment, you're also refusing the gift of being known, of being seen, of mattering to someone enough that they want to mark the day you came into existence, even if that day is objectively just a Wednesday. So here's the reframe. Treating your birthday like a normal day isn't inherently good or bad, it's a strategy. And like all strategies, it has trade-offs. For the wounded, your protection is valid, but protection that never softens becomes a prison. For the authentic, your philosophical clarity is admirable, but purity can become rigidity. For the independent spirit, your ability to find meaning in every day is beautiful, but refusing communal markers can mean missing communal moments. For the honest realist, your refusal to perform is respectable, but waiting for the perfect reason to celebrate means you might wait forever. The truth is, you don't have to throw yourself a party. You don't have to post on social media. You don't have to make a big deal. But you could let someone else make a small deal. You could say yes to dinner. You could answer your mom's call. You could let your friend buy you coffee, not because the day is magical, but because the people offering care are real. Here's a micro protocol if you want it. Step 1. Notice your default response. When someone mentions your birthday, what's your immediate reaction? To minimize, to deflect, to change the subject. Just notice. Don't judge it, but see it clearly. Step 2. Choose one person, not everyone. Just one person who clearly wants to acknowledge the day. Let them accept their offer. Dinner, coffee, a phone call, whatever feels manageable. You don't have to enjoy it performatively, just be present. Step 3. Thank them. Not with a deflection. Oh, you didn't have to, but with genuine acknowledgement. I appreciate you thinking of me. Practice receiving care without immediately minimizing it. That's it. 3 steps. Not a transformation, just a gentle loosening of the grip. Because here's what I've learned watching people who've spent decades treating their birthday like nothing. Eventually, the indifference spreads. It's not just birthdays anymore. It's achievements, milestones, good news. Everything becomes not a big deal. And living a life where nothing is worth celebrating is not wisdom. It's just slow, quiet resignation. You don't have to love your birthday. You don't have to look forward to it. You don't have to become the person who plans a birthday week. But maybe you can let it be something other than nothing. Maybe you can let the people who love you have their moment of saying, I'm glad you exist. Because you do exist. You've made it another year. You've survived things. You've grown in ways you probably don't give yourself credit for. And while that might not feel like enough reason for cake and candles, it's definitely enough reason to let someone who cares about you say, simply and without irony, happy birthday. The question isn't whether birthdays matter. The question is whether you're willing to let mattering happen. So which type are you? The wounded, the authentic, the independent, the honest realist, or maybe a mix of all 4? And more importantly, what would change if you let your next birthday be just a little bit more than nothing? If this made you think differently, we'd love to have you subscribe. We create psychology content that helps you understand yourself better, the kind of insights that actually explain you. And if you want to go deeper, join our Discord community. It's not about marketing. It's just people trying to understand themselves and each other better. The link's in the description. See you there.